Hi, I'm Shoaf, editor of Civil War Times Magazine, and I'm here with Melissa Winn behind the camera, director of photography, and we are on the Gettysburg battlefield. Now, I don't think there's any bad day to go to a battlefield, but we really got lucky today. It's absolutely gorgeous here today. It's about 70 degrees. It's sunny. It's not humid. It is a little breezy, so you might have some wind noise that you can't really do much about, but we'll work with that as best we can. But I'm standing on a portion of the battlefield, where heavy fighting took place on July 2nd, 1863, and that is called Munshower Hill. Now, before I get into more detail about what we're going to talk about, I want to help orient you to where we're located, because a lot of people don't stop here. So behind me is about due west, and if you look slightly northwest, you'll see trees that belong to the Weichert family. George Weichert and his son John. George's house is out of sight to the north. If you look through the trees down there, you can see some post-war houses that are on the site of the John Weichert farm. Almost due west, you're going to see more trees, and it's hard to make out the division between the woodlots with all the leaves on the trees, but that is the eastern toe or foot of the Trossel Woods. Slowly panning toward the south, you can't see it, but the Wheatfield Road cuts through there. And on the left front, you'll see more trees above that bare patch of ground. Those are the Rosewoods. And that bare patch of ground is Houck's Ridge. At the end of Houck's Ridge is Devil's Den. Melissa's going to keep panning to the south, and you're going to see trees, and those trees are on the northern shoulder of Little Round Top. So we're right next to Little Round Top, and you can see the Wheatfield Road running there that separates this particular hill from the rest of Little Round Top. Now she's going to walk back toward the east as we move a little bit, and across the road you're going to see the statue to Major General John Sedgwick, commander of the Union 6th Corps, and Sedgwick Avenue runs right down in front of us. So it's very easy to get to this location. Now, we're going to spend most of our time talking about the Battery C, 1st New York Light Artillery. But before we do, I just want to talk about Munshower Hill. Some people just call it a northern extension of Little Round Top because you can see it is very much almost connected to it. But what happens is a lot of people come here and they get to the top of Little Round Top, and obviously there's a lot of drama up there with the 20th Maine, Joshua Chamberlain, the Alabamans and the Texans that fought for the possession of the hill, the Gouverneur Warren statue, and the marvelous view. And they visit and see all that stuff, get in their vehicles, and drive right by here to go to the Pennsylvania Monument and the high water mark. But this portion of the battlefield does have some significance. On the morning of July 2nd, a division of the 3rd Corps of the Army of the Potomac, which was commanded by Daniel Sickles, Major General Daniel Sickles, was posted here. About 11 o'clock in the morning, Sickles will order those troops and his whole corps to move about a mile west out to the Emmitsburg Road, which you can't see now because of the trees. So there are no Union troops in this location. About 1 in the afternoon, Lieutenant General James Longstreet launches his massive flank attack on this position. About 15,000 men. It's bigger than Pickett's charge, and they're all going to come barreling down towards this portion, the southern portion of the Union line. When that happens, Sickles gets in trouble, and the 5th Corps of the Army of the Potomac has to move in to reinforce him with infantry and artillery. Now, there's a reserve brigade of artillery in the 5th Corps commanded by Captain Augustus P. Martin. Martin has 5 batteries under his control, and he'll assign them to this area of the battlefield. One is a regular artillery battery, 5th U.S. Artillery Battery E, commanded by Captain Charles Hazlett, Battery D, commanded by Lieutenant Charles Hazlett, which will be on the top of Little Round Top. Next to Hazlett's battery is Captain Frank Gibbs, Battery L, 1st Ohio Light Artillery. There are 2 other batteries left, and Sickles' staff officers from the 3rd Corps actually snag those batteries. That's Lieutenant Aaron Walcott's Battery C, 3rd Massachusetts Light Artillery, which is going to be posted at the foot of this ridge, and we'll see their position in a little bit. And there's another regular artillery battery commanded by Lieutenant Malbone Watson from the 5th U.S., and they're going to be brought out toward the Emmitsburg Road by one of Sickles' staff officers. About 4 in the afternoon, Captain Martin approaches Captain Almont Barnes, commander of this battery. Barnes's battery is near Rock Creek. They've arrived there about 5:40 in the morning. And Martin tells Barnes to move his battery, 4 3-inch ordnance rifles, into this position. Barnes is a volunteer. He's a 29-year-old newspaper editor from Watertown, New York, which is east of Lake Ontario. He will bring his guns into this area, and he writes in his report he had trouble finding a good location to set up his guns. It's not a good place to deploy artillery. He chooses this location because it's right to the right of Gibbs, Ohio Battery, and also he notes this large rock formation in his front. He said he picked this location partially because he thought that those rocks could help protect his caissons, which are essentially large wagons that hold extra ammunition that are parked a little to the rear. So he sets his 4 guns up in this position, and what I find amazing is they never fire a shot the entire day. They get here about 4:30 in the afternoon when all heck is breaking loose all around them, but they don't fire a shot. Now, can you imagine that? There's Confederate attacks in the wheat field, there's fighting in the wheat field, there's fighting at Devil's Den, there's the attacks on Little Round Top. The world is blowing up around these guys, but they don't open fire. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, they don't have a very good field of fire. You can look to the west and see how those trees sort of obscure what they are going to look at. But secondly, and most importantly, there's all sorts of friendly Union troops in their front. Walcott's battery is right at the foot of this ridge, and there's always advancing Union infantry, either advancing or retreating, coming from Cemetery Ridge, moving across their front into the area of the wheat field. So they cannot open fire. There's another little thing that I find interesting is that if you look at the official records, Barnes says he didn't open fire under his own volition because he was afraid he would hit friendly troops. Martin says in his report, however, that he ordered Barnes not to open fire unless he gave him the order to do so, and he never got that order. It's just it doesn't really, change things. At the end of the day, these guys still never fired a shot, but you just get these 2 slightly different stories as to why that happened. Miraculously, no one in this New York battery was injured during the day, although Barnes said that they were under constant musketry fire the whole time they were posted here. They didn't suffer any casualties in men or horses, and they escaped with only having the harness for their horses cut. So I just find this a very fascinating story and interesting to talk about, that this battery was in this position and couldn't really contribute to the fight. On July 3rd, early in the morning, Barnes's battery is moved further to the left near Big Round Top, and they won't fire a shot on July 3rd as well. So it's really interesting to think about this artillery battery in this location where all this heavy fighting takes place on July 2nd, and they can't contribute to the Union defense. I'm going to take a walk over here before we leave Munshower Hill and take a look at this monument. This monument was put up in October of 1884 by the 93rd Pennsylvania Infantry, and it's a very unique monument. You'll notice this really pretty small blue mosaic tile that makes up the motif on the front of this, and it blends really well with this pink Pennsylvania sandstone. This is one of the earlier monuments, and notice how unique it is in its appearance, because when we join you in a little bit, we're going to look at another monument and contrast it to this. So try to keep this in mind when we do our next segment, which will be at the bottom of the hill here. So Melissa and I thank you for tuning in, and I do hope that you'll join us in about a half hour or so when we present our next segment on this area of the battlefield. This is Dana and Melissa signing off for Civil War Times magazine from beautiful Gettysburg.